You must be ready to give up even the most attractive ideas when experiment shows them to be wrong. What is it possible to do well, in physics particularly, if things are not reduced to degrees and measures? The language of experiment is more authoritative than any reasoning. Facts can destroy our ratiocination, not vice versa. Each metal has a certain power, which is different from metal to metal, of setting the electric fluid in motion. I continue coupling a plate of silver with one of zinc, and always in the same order, and place between each of these couples a moistened disc. I continue to form a column. If the column contains about 20 of these couples of metal, it will be capable of giving to the fingers several small shocks. This law strikes me so much to heart that I do not think I shall ever have another happy day. My father owned nothing except a small dwelling worth about 14,000 lira, and he left behind him 17,000 lira of debt. I was actually poorer and poorer. Heroes of physics, Argonauts of our time who leapt the mountains, who crossed the seas, you have confirmed in uncomfortable places what Newton knew without leaving his study. In fact, no opinion should be with fervor. No one holds with fervor that 7 by 8 equals 56 because it can be shown to be the case. Fervor is only necessary in commanding an opinion which is doubtful or demonstrably false. If you have seen with your own eyes a mountain move forward in a plain, that is, a huge rock of this mountain breaking off and covering entire fields, a whole castle sunken into the earth. I am still of the same opinion because the impossibility of the formation of mountains by the sea is demonstrated to me. In the beginning of the year 1800, the illustrious professor conceived the idea of forming a long column by piling up, in succession, a disc of copper, a disc of zinc, and a disc of wet cloth, with scrupulous attention to not changing this order.
When one door closes, another door opens, but we so often look so long and so regretfully upon the closed door, that we do not see the ones which open for us. Concentrate all your thoughts upon the work in hand. The sun's rays do not burn until brought to a focus. Sometimes we stare so long at a door that is closing that we see too late the one that is open. Educate the masses, elevate their standard of intelligence, and you will certainly have a successful nation. My knowledge of electrical subjects was not acquired in a methodical manner, but was picked up from such books as I could get hold of and from such experiments as I could make with my own hands. Great discoveries and improvements invariably involve the cooperation of many minds. I may be given credit for having blazed the trail, but when I look at the subsequent developments, I feel the credit is due to others rather than to myself. The most successful men in the end are those whose success is the result of steady accretion. The day will come when the man at the telephone will be able to see the distant person to whom he is speaking. Don't keep forever on the public road, going only where others have gone and following one after the other like a flock of sheep. Leave the beaten track occasionally and dive into the woods. Dumbness comes from the fact that a child is born deaf and that it consequently never learns how to articulate, for it is by the medium of hearing that such instruction is acquired. You cannot force ideas. Successful ideas are the result of slow growth. Ideas do not reach perfection in a day, no matter how much study is put upon them. The inventor is a man who looks around upon the world and is not contented with things as they are. He wants to improve whatever he sees, he wants to benefit the world, he is haunted by an idea, the spirit of invention possesses him, seeking materialization. Leave the beaten track behind occasionally and dive into the woods. Every time you do, you will be certain to find something you have never seen before. God has strewn our paths with wonders, and we certainly should not go through life with our eyes shut. There cannot be mental atrophy in any person who continues to observe, to remember what he observes, and to seek answers for his unceasing hows and whys about things. Don't keep forever on the public road, going only where others have gone. Leave the beaten track occasionally and dive into the woods. You'll be certain to find something you have never seen before. Concentrate all your thoughts on the task at hand. The sun's rays do not burn until brought to a focus.
How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. Parents can only give good advice or put them on the right paths, but the final forming of a person's character lies in their own hands. The best remedy for those who are afraid, lonely or unhappy is to go outside, somewhere where they can be quite alone with the heavens, nature and God. Where there's hope, there's life. It fills us with fresh courage and makes us strong again. As long as this exists, this sunshine and this cloudless sky, and as long as I can enjoy it, how can I be sad? Dead people receive more flowers than the living ones because regret is stronger than gratitude. Sympathy, love, fortune. We all have these qualities but still tend to not use them. Whoever doesn't know it must learn and find by experience that a quiet conscience makes one strong. I must uphold my ideals, for perhaps the time will come when I shall be able to carry them out. We all live with the objective of being happy. Our lives are all different and yet the same. I can shake off everything as I write, my sorrows disappear, my courage is reborn. You can be lonely even when you are loved by many people, since you're still not anybody's one and only. I soothe my conscience now with the thought that it is better for hard words to be on paper than that mummy should carry them in her heart. I simply can't build my hopes on a foundation of confusion, misery and death. I think peace and tranquility will return again. Boys will be boys. And even that wouldn't matter if only we could prevent girls from being girls. If I haven't any talent for writing books or newspaper articles, well, then I can always write for myself. The final forming of a person's character lies in their own hands. Whoever is happy will make others happy too.
Happiness is the meaning and the purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Happiness does not lie in amusement. It would be strange if one were to take trouble and suffer hardship all one's life in order to amuse oneself. You will never do anything in this world without courage. It is the greatest quality of the mind next to honor. Democracy arose from men's thinking that if they are equal in any respect, they are equal absolutely. Whatsoever that be within us that feels, thinks, desires, and animates, is something celestial, divine, and, consequently, imperishable. I count him braver who overcomes his desires than him who conquers his enemies, for the hardest victory is over self. The ideal man bears the accidents of life with dignity and grace, making the best of circumstances. The high-minded man must care more for the truth than for what people think. It is easy to perform a good action, but not easy to acquire a settled habit of performing such actions. Man is a goal-seeking animal. His life only has meaning if he is reaching out and striving for his goals. It is possible to fail in many ways, while to succeed is possible only in one way. I count him braver who overcomes his desires than him who overcomes his enemies. Courage is the first of human qualities because it is the quality which guarantees the others. All persons ought to endeavor to follow what is right, and not what is established. For the things we have to learn before we can do them, we learn by doing them. To be conscious that we are perceiving or thinking is to be conscious of our own existence. Men acquire a particular quality by constantly acting a particular way. You become just by performing just actions, temperate by performing temperate actions, brave by performing brave actions.
Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. The future rewards those who press on. I don't have time to feel sorry for myself. I don't have time to complain. I'm going to press on. Understand, our police officers put their lives on the line for us every single day. They've got a tough job to do to maintain public safety and hold accountable those who break the law. My fellow Americans, we are and always will be a nation of immigrants. We were strangers once, too. If you're walking down the right path and you're willing to keep walking, eventually you'll make progress. It's not surprising, then, they get bitter, they cling to guns or religion or antipathy to people who aren't like them or anti-immigrant sentiment or anti-trade sentiment as a way to explain their frustrations. If you run you stand a chance of losing, but if you don't run you've already lost. Progress will come in fits and starts. It's not always a straight line. It's not always smooth path. We need to internalize this idea of excellence. Not many folks spend a lot of time trying to be excellent. If you work hard and meet your responsibilities, you can get ahead, no matter where you come from, what you look like or who you love. Making your mark on the world is hard. If it were easy, everybody would do it. But it's not. It takes patience, it takes commitment, and it comes with plenty of failure along the way. We see the future not as something out of our control, but as something we can shape for the better through concerted and collective effort. The cynics may be the loudest voices, but I promise you, they will accomplish the least. I began feeling the way I imagine an actor or athlete must feel when, after years of commitment to a particular dream, he realizes that he's gone just about as far as talent or fortune will take him. The dream will not happen, and he now faces the choice of accepting this fact like a grown-up and moving on to more sensible pursuits, or refusing the truth and ending up bitter, quarrelsome, and slightly pathetic. One voice can change a room, and if one voice can change a room, then it can change a city, and if it can change a city, it can change a state, and if it change a state, it can change a nation, and if it can change a nation, it can change the world. Your voice can change the world. I believe in evolution, scientific inquiry, and global warming. I believe in free speech, whether politically correct or politically incorrect, and I am suspicious of using government to impose anybody's religious beliefs, including my own, on non-believers. Focusing your life solely on making a buck shows a poverty of ambition. It asks too little of yourself. And it will leave you unfulfilled.
This a great confidence in a friend to tell him your faults, greater to tell him his. Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are. Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy and wise. The only thing that is more expensive than education is ignorance. Without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. When you're testing to see how deep water is, never use 2 feet. Whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must begin by subduing the freeness of speech. Being ignorant is not so much a shame as being unwilling to learn. Be at war with your vices, at peace with your neighbors, and let every new year find you a better man. Do not anticipate trouble, or worry about what may never happen. Keep in the sunlight. Happiness depends more on the inward disposition of mind than on outward circumstances. To succeed, jump as quickly at opportunities as you do at conclusions. Without freedom of thought, there can be no such thing as wisdom, and no such thing as public liberty without freedom of speech. They who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. If you would not be forgotten, as soon as you are dead and rotten, either write things worth reading or do things worth writing. In this world, nothing can be said to be certain, except death and taxes. Wine is constant proof that God loves us and loves to see us happy. The heart of a fool is in his mouth, but the mouth of a wise man is in his heart. We must all hang together, or assuredly we shall all hang separately. We do not stop playing because we grow old, we grow old because we stop playing.
If life were predictable, it would cease to be life, and be without flavor. Friendship with one's self is all important because, without it, one cannot be friends with anyone else in the world. I believe anyone can conquer fear by doing the things he fears to do, provided he keeps doing them until he gets a record of successful experience behind him. It isn't enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it. And it isn't enough to believe in it. One must work at it. Since you get more joy out of giving joy to others, you should put a good deal of thought into the happiness you are able to give. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. The purpose of life is to live it, to taste experience to the utmost, to reach out eagerly and without fear for newer and richer experience. Many people will walk in and out of your life, but only true friends will leave footprints in your heart. Life was meant to be lived, and curiosity must be kept alive. One must never, for whatever reason, turn his back on life. You have to accept whatever comes, and the only important thing is that you meet it with the best you have to give. Think as little as possible about yourself. Think as much as possible about other people. In the long run, we shape our lives, and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die. And the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility. It is a brave thing to have courage to be an individual, It is also, perhaps, a lonely thing. But it is better than not being an individual, which is to be nobody at all. We have to face the fact that either all of us are going to die together or we are going to learn to live together, and if we are to live together, we have to talk. Success must include two things: the development of an individual to his utmost potentiality and a contribution of some kind to one's world. When you have decided what you believe, what you feel must be done, have the courage to stand alone and be counted.
I do not feel obliged to believe that the same God who has endowed us with sense, reason, and intellect has intended us to forget their use. By denying scientific principles, one may maintain any paradox. If you could see the earth illuminated when you were in a place as dark as night, it would look to you more splendid than the moon. I do not think it is necessary to believe that the same God who has given us our senses, reason, and intelligence wished us to abandon their use, giving us by some other means the information that we could gain through them. The greatest wisdom is to get to know oneself. Philosophy is written in that great book which ever lies before our eyes, I mean the universe, but we cannot understand it if we do not first learn the language and grasp the symbols, in which it is written. The sun, with all those planets revolving around it and dependent on it, can still ripen a bunch of grapes as if it had nothing else in the universe to do. We cannot teach people anything, we can only help them discover it within themselves. With regard to matters requiring thought, the less people know and understand about them, the more positively they attempt to argue concerning them. Who indeed will set bounds to human ingenuity? Who will assert that everything in the universe capable of being perceived is already discovered and known? Mathematics is the language in which God has written the universe.
See now the power of truth, the same experiment which at first glance seemed to show one thing, when more carefully examined, assures us of the contrary. Names and attributes must be accommodated to the essence of things, and not the essence to the names, since things come first and names afterwards. They seem to forget that the increase of known truths stimulates the investigation, establishment and growth of the arts, not their diminution or destruction. The Bible shows the way to go to heaven, not the way the heavens go. Nature is relentless and unchangeable, and it is indifferent as to whether its hidden reasons and actions are understandable to man or not. In the future, there will be opened a gateway and a road to a large and excellent science into which minds more piercing than mine shall penetrate through recesses still deeper. The greatness and the glory of God shine forth marvelously in all His works, and is to be read above all in the open book of the heavens. To me, a great ineptitude exists on the part of those who would have it that God made the universe more in proportion to the small capacity of their reason than to His immense, His infinite, power.
We are never really happy until we try to brighten the lives of others. Great poetry needs no interpreter other than a responsive heart. When one door of happiness closes, another opens, but often we look so long at the closed door that we do not see the one which has been opened for us. What we have once enjoyed we can never lose. All that we love deeply becomes a part of us. I long to accomplish a great and noble task, but it is my chief duty to accomplish small tasks as if they were great and noble. Love is like a beautiful flower which I may not touch, but whose fragrance makes the garden a place of delight just the same. Death is no more than passing from one room into another. But there's a difference for me, you know. Because in that other room I shall be able to see. Although the world is full of suffering, it is full also of the overcoming of it. To me a lush carpet of pine needles or spongy grass is more welcome than the most luxurious Persian rug. What we once enjoyed and deeply loved we can never lose, for all that we love deeply becomes a part of us. Science may have found a cure for most evils, but it has found no remedy for the worst of them all, the apathy of human beings. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. We could never learn to be brave and patient if there were only joy in the world. Many persons have a wrong idea of what constitutes true happiness. It is not attained through self-gratification but through fidelity to a worthy purpose. When we do the best that we can, we never know what miracle is wrought in our life, or in the life of another. Smell is a potent wizard that transports you across thousands of miles and all the years you have lived. Optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence. Self-pity is our worst enemy, and if we yield to it, we can never do anything wise in this world. The world is moved along, not only by the mighty shoves of its heroes, but also by the aggregate of tiny pushes of each honest worker.
I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people. Atheism is so senseless. When I look at the solar system, I see the Earth at the right distance from the Sun to receive the proper amounts of heat and light. This did not happen by chance. What we know is a drop, what we don't know is an ocean. If I have seen further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants. Gravity explains the motions of the planets, but it cannot explain who sets the planets in motion. Live your life as an exclamation rather than an explanation. Truth is ever to be found in the simplicity, and not in the multiplicity and confusion of things. If I had stayed for other people to make my tools and things for me, I had never made anything. Christ comes as a thief in the night, and it is not for us to know the times and seasons which God hath put into his own breast. If I have ever made any valuable discoveries, it has been due more to patient attention, than to any other talent. God is the same God, always and everywhere. He is omnipresent not virtually only, but also substantially, for virtue cannot subsist without substance. As a blind man has no idea of colors, so have we no idea of the manner by which the all-wise God perceives and understands all things. An object that is at rest will tend to remain at rest. An object that is in motion will tend to remain in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. In the absence of any other proof, the thumb alone would convince me of God's existence. To me there has never been a higher source of earthly honor or distinction than that connected with advances in science. He who thinks half-heartedly will not believe in God, but he who really thinks has to believe in God. A man may imagine things that are false, but he can only understand things that are true, for if the things be false, the apprehension of them is not understanding. To myself I am only a child playing on the beach, while vast oceans of truth lie undiscovered before me. The proper method for inquiring after the properties of things is to deduce them from experiments. Inherent force of matter is the power of resisting by which everybody, so far as it is able, perseveres in its state either of resting or of moving uniformly straight forward. If you set your goals ridiculously high and it's a failure, you will fail above everyone else's success. Imagination is a force that can actually manifest a reality. Don't put limitations on yourself. Others will do that for you. Curiosity is the most powerful thing you own. Imagination is a force that can actually manifest a reality. It can't be bargained with, it can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity, or remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop. Ever. Until you are dead. If you wait until the right time to have a child, you'll die childless, and I think filmmaking is very much the same thing. You just have to take the plunge and just start shooting something even if it's bad. There are many talented people who haven't fulfilled their dreams because they overthought it, or they were too cautious, and were unwilling to make the leap of faith. People call me a perfectionist, but I'm not. I'm a rightist. I do something until it's right, and then I move on to the next thing. The magic doesn't come from within the director's mind, it comes from within the hearts of the actors. I love it when I have a nightmare. To me that means I got my money's worth out of it. 8 hours. Here's my philosophy in life: if there's a fire, you put it out. If there's a flood, you fill sandbags and you build a dike. You roll up your sleeves and you get to work. I dreamed I was a soldier who could bring peace. Sooner or later, though, you always have to wake up. I do an awful lot of scuba diving. I love to be on the ocean, under the ocean. I live next to the ocean. If you wanted to move through a virtual reality, it's called a video game. It's been around forever. It was long ago in my life as a simple reporter that I decided that facts must never get in the way of truth. Nature's not our enemy, it's our sustenance, and we need it, and we need nature healthy for us to be healthy and to survive long term. You can't really call yourself an environmentalist if you're still consuming animals. You just can't. Don't get seduced by your own stuff. Work hard to keep a blank slate state of mind each time you watch a film. You have to not listen to the naysayers, because there will be many and often they'll be much more qualified than you and cause you to sort of doubt yourself.
We're more popular than Jesus now. Jesus was alright, but his disciples were thick and ordinary. It's them twisting it that ruins it for me. You're born in pain. Pain is what we are in most of the time, and I think that the bigger the pain, the more God you look for. You're born in pain. Pain is what we are in most of the time, and I think that the bigger the pain, the more God you look for. I don't want to die, and I don't want to be hurt physically, but if they blow the world up, we're all out of our pain then, forget it, no more problems. I don't want to grow up, but I'm sick of not growing up. I'll find a different way of not growing up. That was a great period. We were like kings of the jungle then, and we were very close to the stones. I spent a lot of time with them, and it was great. I've withdrawn many times. Part of me is a monk, and part a performing flea. The fear in the music business is that you don't exist if you're not at Xenon with Andy Warhol. When you're drowning, you don't think, I would be incredibly pleased if someone would notice I'm drowning and come and rescue me. You just scream. We live in a world where we have to hide to make love, while violence is practiced in broad daylight. Rituals are important. Nowadays it's hip not to be married. I'm not interested in being hip. I couldn't think of the next few years. It's abysmal thinking of how many years there are to go, millions of them. I just play it by the week. I hope we're a nice old couple living off the coast of Ireland or something like that, looking at our scrapbook of madness. I'd always felt guilty that I made money, so I had to give it away or lose it. I don't mean I was a hypocrite. When I believe right down to the roots. Nobody controls me. I am uncontrollable. The only one who controls me is me, and that's just barely possible. You don't need anybody to tell you who you are or what you are. You are what you are. If someone thinks that peace and love are just a cliché that must have been left behind in the 60s, that's a problem. Peace and love are eternal.
Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Having someone wonder where you are when you don't come home at night is a very old human need. There is no greater insight into the future than recognizing, when we save our children, we save ourselves. Young people are moving away from feeling guilty about sleeping with somebody to feeling guilty if they are not sleeping with someone. You know you love someone when you cannot put into words how they make you feel. It is utterly false and cruelly arbitrary to put all the play and learning into childhood, all the work into middle age, and all the regrets into old age. I measure success in terms of the contributions an individual makes to her fellow human beings. Never ever depend on governments or institutions to solve any major problems. All social change comes from the passion of individuals. I was brought up to believe that the only thing worth doing was to add to the sum of accurate information in the world. Never believe that a few caring people can't change the world, for indeed that's all who ever have. Sisters is probably the most competitive relationship within the family, but once the sisters are grown, it becomes the strongest relationship. We won't have a society if we destroy the environment. I must admit that I personally measure success in terms of the contributions an individual makes to her or his fellow human beings. It may be necessary temporarily to accept a lesser evil, but one must never label unnecessary evil as good. Human nature is potentially aggressive and destructive and potentially orderly and constructive. Prayer does not use up artificial energy, doesn't burn up any fossil fuel, doesn't pollute. Neither does song, neither does love, neither does the dance. Many societies have educated their male children on the simple device of teaching them not to be women. When our baby stirs and struggles to be born, it compels humility. What we began is now its own. For the very first time the young are seeing history being made before it is censored by their elders.
Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow has not yet come. We have only today. Let us begin. Every time you smile at someone, it is an action of love, a gift to that person, a beautiful thing. Do not think that love in order to be genuine has to be extraordinary. What we need is to love without getting tired. The most terrible poverty is loneliness, and the feeling of being unloved. I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. I prefer you to make mistakes in kindness than work miracles in unkindness. Prayer is not asking. Prayer is putting oneself in the hands of God, at His disposition, and listening to His voice in the depth of our hearts. The hunger for love is much more difficult to remove than the hunger for bread. I can do things you cannot, you can do things I cannot, together we can do great things. Be happy in the moment, that's enough. Each moment is all we need, not more. I can do things you cannot, you can do things I cannot, together we can do great things. I'm a little pencil in the hand of a writing God, who is sending a love letter to the world. True love is love that causes us pain, that hurts, and yet brings us joy. That is why we must pray to God and ask Him to give us the courage to love. If you are humble, nothing will touch you, neither praise nor disgrace, because you know what you are. Be kind and merciful. Let no one ever come to you without coming away better and happier. One of the realities we're all called to go through is to move from repulsion to compassion and from compassion to wonderment. Life is an opportunity, benefit from it. Life is beauty, admire it. Life is a dream, realize it.
Do not judge me by my successes, judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. There is no passion to be found playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. Everyone can rise above their circumstances and achieve success if they are dedicated to and passionate about what they do. Live life as though nobody is watching, and express yourself as though everyone is listening. I have never cared very much for personal prizes. A person does not become a freedom fighter in the hope of winning awards. I learned that to humiliate another person is to make him suffer an unnecessarily cruel fate. Even as a boy, I defeated my opponents without dishonoring them. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones. A leader is like a shepherd. He stays behind the flock, letting the most nimble go out ahead, whereupon the others follow, not realizing that all along they are being directed from behind. Freedom is indivisible. The chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them. The chains on all of my people were the chains on me. Success in politics demands that you must take your people into confidence about your views and state them very clearly, very politely, very calmly, but nevertheless, state them openly. There are few misfortunes in this world that you cannot turn into a personal triumph if you have the iron will and the necessary skill. There is no easy walk to freedom anywhere, and many of us will have to pass through the valley of the shadow of death again and again before we reach the mountaintop of our desires. Men have different capacities and react differently to stress. But the stronger ones raised up the weaker ones, and both became stronger in the process. You will achieve more in this world through acts of mercy than you will through acts of retribution. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. Without language, one cannot talk to people and understand them, one cannot share their hopes and aspirations, grasp their history, appreciate their poetry, or savor their songs. A good head and good heart are always a formidable combination. But when you add to that a literate tongue or pen, then you have something very special. Difficulties break some men but make others. No axe is sharp enough to cut the soul of a sinner who keeps on trying, one armed with the hope that he will rise even in the end.
If you look at what you have in life, you'll always have more. If you look at what you don't have in life, you'll never have enough. Challenges are gifts that force us to search for a new center of gravity. Don't fight them. Just find a new way to stand. One of the hardest things in life to learn is which bridges to cross and which bridges to burn. Everyone wants to ride with you in the limo, but what you want is someone who will take the bus with you when the limo breaks down. We have to make the choice every single day to exemplify the truth, the respect, and the grace that we wish for this world. The answers keep unfolding as your life expands, if you're willing to see things for what they are and what they can be. The big secret in life is that there is no big secret. Whatever your goal, you can get there if you're willing to work. The reason I've been able to be so financially successful is my focus has never, ever for 1 minute been money. You know you are on the road to success if you would do your job and not be paid for it. With every experience, you alone are painting your own canvas, thought by thought, choice by choice. Every day brings a chance for you to draw in a breath, kick off your shoes, and dance. Some women have a weakness for shoes. I can go barefoot if necessary. I have a weakness for books. Challenges are gifts that force us to search for a new center of gravity. Don't fight them. Just find a new way to stand. I believe that every single event in life happens in an opportunity to choose love over fear. You have to find what sparks a light in you so that you in your own way can illuminate the world. Every day brings a chance to live free of regret and with as much joy, fun, and laughter as you can stand. The whole point of being alive is to evolve into the complete person you were intended to be. You look at yourself and you accept yourself for who you are. And once you accept yourself for who you are, you become a better person. I believe the choice to be excellent begins with aligning your thoughts and words with the intention to require more from yourself.
It's worth remembering that it is often the small steps, not the giant leaps, that bring about the most lasting change. It has always been easy to hate and destroy. To build and to cherish is much more difficult. Such a blend of traditions serves to make us stronger, individually and collectively, by providing the ingredients needed for social, political and economic resilience. If I am asked what I think about family life after 25 years of marriage, I can answer with equal simplicity and conviction, I am for it. We all need to get the balance right between action and reflection. With so many distractions, it is easy to forget to pause and take stock. Though we each lead different lives, the experience of growing older, and the joys and emotions which it brings, are familiar to us all. Even when your life seems most monotonous, What you do is always of real value and importance to your fellow men. Whatever life throws at us, our individual responses will be all the stronger for working together and sharing the load. It has been women who have breathed gentleness and care into the harsh progress of mankind. We know the reward is peace on earth, goodwill toward men, but we cannot win it without determination and concerted effort. Over the years, those who have seemed to me to be the most happy, contented and fulfilled have always been the people who have lived the most outgoing and unselfish lives. It is through this lens of history that we should view the conflicts of today, and so give us hope for tomorrow. Although we are capable of great acts of kindness, history teaches us that we sometimes need saving from ourselves, from our recklessness or our greed. In times of doubt and anxiety, the attitudes people show in their daily lives, in their homes, and in their work, are of supreme importance. Perhaps we make too much of what is wrong and too little of what is right. The trouble with gloom is that it feeds upon itself, and depression causes more depression. When life seems hard, the courageous do not lie down and accept defeat. Instead, they are all the more determined to struggle for a better future. Each day is a new beginning. I know that the only way to live my life is to try to do what is right, to take the long view, to give of my best in all that the day brings, and to put my trust in God. I believe that, young or old, we have as much to look forward to with confidence and hope as we have to look back on with pride.
What lies behind you and what lies in front of you, pales in comparison to what lies inside of you. Without ambition one starts nothing. Without work one finishes nothing. The prize will not be sent to you. You have to win it. I cannot remember the books I've read any more than the meals I have eaten. Even so, they have made me. Peace cannot be achieved through violence, it can only be attained through understanding. Don't be too timid and squeamish about your actions. All life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better. Unless you try to do something beyond what you have already mastered, you will never grow. People do not seem to realize that their opinion of the world is also a confession of their character. When friendships are real, they are not glass threads or frostwork, but the solidest things we can know. Character is higher than intellect. A great soul will be strong to live, as well as strong to think. Do not go where the path may lead, go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. The health of the eye seems to demand a horizon. We are never tired, so long as we can see far enough. People wish to be settled, only as far as they are unsettled is there any hope for them. people destined to meet will do so, apparently by chance, at precisely the right moment. One of the most beautiful compensations in life is that no person can help another without helping themselves. Throw a stone into the stream and the ripples that propagate themselves are the beautiful type of all influence. I do not wish more external goods, neither possessions, nor honors, nor powers, nor persons. The gain is apparent, the tax is certain. Never lose an opportunity of seeing anything beautiful, for beauty is God's handwriting.
I travel not to go anywhere, but to go. I travel for travel's sake. The great affair is to move. Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant. There is no duty we so much underrate as the duty of being happy. By being happy we sow anonymous benefits upon the world. We are all travelers in the wilderness of this world, and the best we can find in our travels is an honest friend. You think those dogs will not be in heaven? I tell you they will be there long before any of us. Quiet minds cannot be perplexed or frightened but go on in fortune or misfortune at their own private pace, like a clock during a thunderstorm. To be what we are, and to become what we are capable of becoming, is the only end of life. To know what you prefer instead of humbly saying amen to what the world tells you you ought to prefer, is to have kept your soul alive. I kept always 2 books in my pocket, one to read, one to write in. You think those dogs will not be in heaven? I tell you they will be there long before any of us. There are no foreign lands. It is the traveler only who is foreign. To be what we are, and to become what we are capable of becoming, is the only end of life. You can give without loving, but you can never love without giving. You cannot run away from a weakness, you must sometimes fight it out or perish. And if that be so, why not now and where you stand? Our business in life is not to succeed, but to continue to fail in good spirits. I regard you with an indifference closely bordering on aversion. Here then, as I lay down the pen and proceed to seal up my confession, I bring the life of that unhappy Henry Jekyll to an end. Books are good enough in their own way, but they are a mighty bloodless substitute for life. Compromise is the best and cheapest lawyer. Perpetual devotion to what a man calls his business, is only to be sustained by perpetual neglect of many other things. I'm convinced that about half of what separates successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance. Being the richest man in the cemetery doesn't matter to me. Going to bed at night saying we've done something wonderful, that's what matters to me. That's been one of my mantras: focus and simplicity. Simple can be harder than complex, you have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple. Be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected. Sometimes when you innovate, you make mistakes. It is best to admit them quickly and get on with improving your other innovations. I'm as proud of many of the things we haven't done as the things we have done. Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. It's really hard to design products by focus groups. A lot of times, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. My favorite things in life don't cost any money. It's really clear that the most precious resource we all have is time. We don't get a chance to do that many things, and everyone should be really excellent. Because this is our life. Life is brief, and then you die, you know? And we've all chosen to do this with our lives. So, it better be damn good. It better be worth it. You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. I've always been attracted to the more revolutionary changes. I don't know why. Because they're harder. They're much more stressful emotionally. And you usually go through a period where everybody tells you that you've completely failed. For you to sleep well at night, the aesthetic, the quality, has to be carried all the way through. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down, and it has made all the difference in my life. Technology is nothing. What's important is that you have a faith in people, that they're basically good and smart, and if you give them tools, they'll do wonderful things with them. Get closer than ever to your customers. So close that you tell them what they need well before they realize it themselves. The doers are the major thinkers. The people that really create the things that change this industry are both the thinker and doer in one person.
Restlessness is discontent, and discontent is the first necessity of progress. Show me a thoroughly satisfied man and I will show you a failure. Nearly every man who develops an idea works it up to the point where it looks impossible, and then he gets discouraged. That's not the place to become discouraged. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. When I have fully decided that a result is worth getting, I go ahead of it and make trial after trial until it comes. 5% of the people think, 10% of the people think they think, and the other 85% would rather die than think. Nonviolence leads to the highest ethics, which is the goal of all evolution. Until we stop harming all other living beings, we are still savages. Negative results are just what I want. They're just as valuable to me as positive results. I can never find the thing that does the job best until I find the ones that don't. Just because something doesn't do what you planned it to do doesn't mean it's useless. The doctor of the future will give no medication, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease. I have friends in overalls whose friendship I would not swap for the favor of the kings of the world. Maturity is often more absurd than youth and very frequently is most unjust to youth. To do much clear thinking, a person must arrange for regular periods of solitude when they can concentrate and indulge the imagination without distraction. Results. Why, man, I have gotten a lot of results. I know several thousand things that won't work. I have more respect for the fellow with a single idea who gets there than for the fellow with 1,000 ideas who does nothing. We are like tenant farmers chopping down the fence around our house for fuel when we should be using nature's inexhaustible sources of energy: sun, wind and tide. I'd put my money on the sun and solar energy. What a source of power! I hope we don't have to wait until oil and coal run out before we tackle that. Being busy does not always mean real work. The object of all work is production or accomplishment, and to either of these ends there must be forethought, system, planning, intelligence and honest. I never did anything by accident, nor did any of my inventions come by accident, they came by work. The best thinking has been done in solitude. The worst has been done in turmoil.